I want to address a few things that I think were pretty obvious yesterday, and I think that was something that one of you said about how long it takes to do this. This is not fast photography. There are times when I'm shooting people when it can go pretty quick. I mean, like many of you, we're pretty good with our tools, and you're going to do a people shot, you can set it up. With this stuff, everything's different. We grabbed a piece of jewelry yesterday and brought it over here. Perhaps if I'd thought it through a little better, I might not have grabbed that particular piece of jewelry because it stumped us on camera. So we said, we did, what anyone would do. Let's move on, shall we? Because we literally could have spent, 2 hours shooting that. That becomes very much fun for the people here, not so much fun for the people on the internet. So what we're trying to do is some proof of concept things, not necessarily finishing them all out. That being said, the shots that we do today will be finished out and up so for us to look at tomorrow. So we're not going to take too much time to go through all the photoshopping and stuff that we do, but we'll document those things and get them up tomorrow. So you will be able to see the finished shots. But I'm going to go ahead with the shot that stumped us yesterday, the one that almost got away, and this is for folks who watched yesterday. If you watched the rewatch, you remember this piece of jewelry that we tried to unsuccessfully photograph here. And we had it laying down. It didn't work laying down. So the whole gang, everybody was involved with this thing. It was really fun. We hung it from a boom, and then we put a white card below it, 2 silver cards on the side, and a top light from the top. We struggled with the background because the background, no matter what we did, we took a black card and tilted it back. But there's just enough shine to these foam cores, just enough texture on the foam cores that it picked up our top light, so we could never get our background to go black. So finally we took our black table, and this is why you can see another angle here where it's hanging in between these 2 silver cards, our top light coming down. We're using the bolt as a modeling light because we were shooting this with speed lights. The black background, even though it was tilted straight up, we could still see it. It went gray. So we tilted it forward to create a shadow, to make it more like a cavern, if you want to think of it, a real shallow cavern. And when we did that, we lost all the edge back there, and it was a pure black background. Well, someone earlier referred to it as stand forest. Remember I told you, you need one more stand than you had, and yesterday we were scrambling around looking for one more boom, and we ended up using this little mechanical arm to hold the white card up in the front here. It's always that way. And all of this for this. And you can see how we did it. We have, Charles is holding a softbox over the scrim. We have Irene over here holding a speed light right there. You can see there's a speed light with a grid, a very small grid on it. And who's on this side? Is that Barbara? Mm-hmm. Barbara's on this side holding the same matching speed light, matching power with the grid, and they're shining it at the back of the object. So the softbox through the scrim onto the whiteboard, and the 2 shiny boards and the 2 grid spots coming in from the side gave us that shot. So we finished it off. We got the shot. And I think the light's really pretty. Mm-hmm. 3 lights and a lot of cards and a lot of stands. This is, my wife worked, when I first was married, my wife worked with me for about a year. And that was it. She's more of the, let's just set it up and shoot it. And you can, after 3 hours of moving stuff around, she's really ready to bail. You have to be patient with it. You really, really have to. And you could hang another piece of jewelry in that same location, and it wouldn't work. It's just what we have to do is to get through it. And I think that to do that, you have to understand contrast. You have to understand lighting, the tools that we use, and is this the right one? Yes, it is. You have to understand that the light is so fundamental to what we do because the objects are reflecting the light back. We're going to kind of take a quick review of what we want to think about when we're shooting for lighting, for texture, for contrast, for dimension. Understanding how the subject can influence the light. And one of the things that you can do is you can actually take your subjects, your different things that you want to shoot, take them out in the garage or in the living room and just put a light around them and watch what happens with it. Try something that's really textural, like wood. Try something that's very shiny, like a hubcap. And you'll be surprised how a small light on a hubcap still, 90% of the hubcap's still black. We talked Monday, or whenever, Monday? No?
Thursday.
Was it Thursday? Yeah, that day. About everything reflecting, and that is the truth. Everything does reflect. You saw it yesterday, and you saw it in that shot of jewelry that we did right now. Most everything we did on that jewelry was to create stuff for those little facets of jewelry to reflect. It's absolutely imperative. How light reflects off the subject, what it does. I'm going to step over here and get this apple. What the apple reflects is more important than how you got it. How it reflects is more important than what you use to do it. How this apple reflects the light has no relationship to what you did to create it. So what you have to understand is the apple's going to kick back light its way. You have to create the light that it kicks back to you your way. Whether it's a DIY or a box or a strip light or bouncing light into a card. I think I mentioned that we had a motorcycle in the studio just a couple weeks ago. One of my friends was shooting the motorcycle in the studio. He had 5 lights, 5 really big hot studio lights, movie lights. He had 5 lights in there. Not one of them was aimed at the motorcycle. They were all aimed away at the cove, at whiteboards, at everything. They were all aimed away from the motorcycle. He was lighting the motorcycle by lighting what that motorcycle reflected. It was a $173,000 custom motorcycle. Oh, I wanted that bad. I was this close. I had $173. And he wouldn't deal. I'm like, wow. A little rigid, aren't we? Anyway, so the apple reflects light the way the apple will do it because of the apple's parameters, its unique qualities. This is an apple. It will always reflect light the same way, which is why we were talking about some of the questions when folks are looking for formulas. Where do I put the light? I don't know. This apple is different than an orange. This apple's probably different than that apple. Where do you put the light? Where it looks good. So it's a constant playing under the lights. Having an idea where to start is always a good thing, and that's how you want to proceed, by learning what the light does. And controlling the light is everything that we do. Controlling the light is why we have lights in boxes, and we have little pieces of cards, black cards and white cards. Controlling the light in product photography is the main thing. Whether it's daylight product photography or studio product photography, it really doesn't matter. You have to control the light 100%. Of course, whenever we're photographing anything, we have to control the light. So, but controlling the light on a big set, like let's say you have a 86-inch parabolic reflector and a model on white seamless. We are controlling the light, but she's able to move all over the place within that light as you're shooting, right? It's a wonderful fashion light. I love it. You saw yesterday how you can put this apple right here, move the light a quarter of an inch, and it doesn't work anymore. So it becomes much more of a control. You have to understand highlights and shadows and surface tension. We call surface tension efficiency. We call highlights speculars, and we call shadows shadows. The places that tell us what our surface looks like, what our tension is, whether it's shiny, whether it's not, are in the transitions, and where it's transitioning from specular to the true object, and where it's transitioning from the true object to the shadow. Hard light creates a very hard transition from the true value, the skin tone, the apple's skin, the edge of the guitar, or the guitar itself, that's the true value. How it separates from the specular to the true value will tell you if it's shiny. So when we're going to get into backgrounds here in a little bit, as we look at backgrounds, how you choose your background sometimes depends on what you want to do with that background as far as how that specular changes. Because the specular can be a part of your background or not. Shadows, the edge of the true value going to the shadow, that's where most of us refer to the term hard light. It's very hard light, someone will say. And that's because the transition from the true value to the shadow is very, very sharp. You have to understand how everything that you do affects that. We have 5 areas of light to go over again because it's so important. Specular, transition from the specular to the true value, the transition to the shadow, and the shadow. These are the areas of light that you control as best you can, because these guys, our subjects, will have their very own way of dealing with these. We have to figure out which light to use. Is hard light always wrong? No. We've used hard light for years and can be very dramatic. It can create drama. It can create sharp shadows that we can use. Is soft light always right? No, it's not. Sometimes it's too soft and you don't have any drama to the picture. But the way we create that, of course, is with our tools and what our tools do with these specific areas. So what we have here is what we have here is a simple product and showing how we use the specular and the true value all the way through this product. This is just a very shiny piece of shiny plastic and shiny grill work. And speculars, it's specular, not specular, even though sometimes my mouth doesn't really make it that way. This is really a reflection of the softbox that's above it. This is kind of a reflection of the card that's hanging down in front of it. This is a reflection of the card that's down below it. This whole overall area here is because I have 2 cards to the side throwing some bounce, throwing some reflection so that those grill edges can show. And the one back here, that's the card back here that lets that side come through. So all the way through this product, we have those. Here's my favorite subject are these little cue balls we have in the studio. We have a black cue ball and a white cue ball. That's the specular on the top of the black cue ball. We can certainly see it. You can certainly see that it pretty much goes away on the white cue ball. It just goes, it's almost disappeared. Because the subject itself is white and the specular is white. On the 7 ball, we see the transition to the 7. We see the sharp edge of the transition, so we know that it's a shiny object, right? But we see a very slow transition from the red of the cue ball down to the dark shadow part of the cue ball. Why? Because it's a big light source. So it's a soft light source, soft transition to the shadow on a shiny object, fast transition from specular to the true source, or the true value. This is when you're working with speculars, you use speculars also to create the dimension. This is a knife that's turned a 1/4 inch away from me, and that's what a knife looks like because it's reflecting the top of the studio, which is dark. I've twisted it back a 1/4 of an inch, and now we get the knife because now the softbox is actually reflecting from the knife. This is a shot that we did, has giant speculars running across the top that are very sharp, but look at the specular on the surface. Very soft. It's because the glass is very shiny, it's glossy, and the surface is not. Well, it's shiny, but it's not nearly as shiny as the bottle. So you can see how the same specular in the same shot changes up. In this shot, which was done outside, by the way, with 5-in-1, the scrim that comes on the inside, this was done outside in the sunlight, and it's a very soft light going all the way through. There's no fill cards involved in this or anything. Light subjects going very, very softly through. In Photoshop, all that's happening in Photoshop is just a slightly bump to the curves throughout the curved channels so that we can get a little more contrast in it. But this is from a thing that I call improvisations. And I didn't talk about that yet, did I? Improvisations. It's great. I'll do that in a second. Very subtle transitions from shadow to the surface. Very, very subtle transitions. Very subtle transitions from the specular areas to the true tones, because these are not shiny. They're porous. They're seashells. They're not glossy. So they take the light and diffuse it throughout the shell, while the large light source itself creates a very diffuse shadow. This is just a common wrench in the studio, and what I did was I brought this is shot with the bolt light. I brought the bolt from behind. In the workbook, we show the same wrench shot from the front, top, and behind, and the difference is spectacular, because when you shot the wrench from the front, you didn't have any shadows up front. That's no problem. You also had the most ugly picture of a wrench you've ever seen, because it just had no interest to it. When we brought the light back from behind, we got a specular on top of the wrench that's reflecting all that patina that's on the old wrench, and we drove some shadows forward, which gave it some nice dimension, and we've got a nice specular hotspot right in this particular area. And this wrench is sitting on foam core, so it's not even anything fancy. And you can do that by understanding the angles of incidence angle reflection. You understand that that wrench will reflect light. It's steel. It's kind of, funky steel. It's not bright and shiny, but it is steel, so it will bounce the light. And you also do it by controlling where the center of your light comes back from it. Now, this is just the bolt with the diffuser on it. No softbox or anything else above it. It's just a hard light with the little diffuser. And I use shadows all the time as compositional elements. Shadows give us dimension. If we don't have a shadow side to something, we don't have any idea of what shape it is. Shadows are what make our pictures have depth to them. It's one of the reasons why we don't go out and shoot in midday sun. Well, everybody but Helmut Newton. But the rest of us don't go out in noonday sun and shoot, because everything's flat. There's no dimension to it. We love to get up early in the morning. Why? Because we have light coming from the side or from behind us with bright, contrasty light at an angle, or we like backlight to give us some shadows and dimension, but we rarely ever just go in and shoot it flat. If you've ever shot in the desert Southwest, which I love, the Southwest area is just, I love it. Up around, some people find it not attractive up around Vegas, and it can be just really boring, terribly ugly. First thing in the morning, it's amazing. The little cactuses and things will throw shadows and stuff, and it's just really, really fun. At noon, not so much, because it's flat. We have no shadows, no interesting shadows. So I use shadows a lot. And this particular thing, bringing it all together, shot is where I'm using specular highlights, non-reflected specular highlights, shadows, All of it ties together to create something that has dimension to it. We know what we're looking at. We know it's a shiny bottle. We know it's some shiny pieces of crystals, et cetera, all around it. We know this because we can see it. We know what our eyes see is what we're used to. It's so important to look around and see how things work. Have you ever walked by a car and looked in the car and seen the reflection of the city behind you in the car? Isn't that cool? So if we're going to put a light on a car, what we might want to do is light what that car is reflecting, right? Because the car's already proved to us that it could reflect. Certain things reflect more than others. If you're going to shoot the Seattle, a night shot of Seattle, and you want it reflected back in the hood of a car, do you go rent a black Corvette or a white Corvette?
Black. Black.
Black Corvette. White Corvette isn't going to show you the reflection. It's just not going to be there. Not nearly as impactful as the black Corvette because of the contrast of the light to the dark. You have the city lights are on. They're what color? They're white on a white car. White on white. Not as nearly as interesting as white on black. We seek out contrast. The 5 areas of light are covered, and this is not a pitch for my book, but, well, maybe. It's not a pitch for my book, but it is covered in my second book, and that's what the whole book is about. If you can find the book by Dean Collins on lighting, his first book on lighting, if you can find it somewhere, wow, you really, really get a lot out of that. Dean was a master at understanding this stuff and also teaching it. So I hopefully carry on some of the tradition of that because I love looking at light and how it works. And it always works this way. There's no other theories out there that make any sense. Or I'm not even sure there's any other theories out there. It's pretty much what we get.